Super Bowl commercials, always a big talker, and this year, 30 seconds, $7 million. Randy Belcher is here to break down what we saw last night. You work for Access U, and I think this is the coolest fact. He came up with the Geico Gecko.
Right. Yes, right. Right down the road in Richmond at the Martin Agency.
So definitely a lot of experience in that category. Coming over some of the different commercials, man, Paramount Plus was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah, you know, advertisers love to put celebrities in their spots, and this had an odd collection. And, you know, if you watched Arnold or your kids watched Arnold, it was very nostalgic to see his football-shaped head. And Patrick Stewart was so funny, primarily because he's not funny. So he was very good in that. And then it just had everything.
And you said watch the extended version of this one.
Yeah, because Patrick Stewart sings, he gets really into it, there's a lot more Creed.
Oh my God.
So it's just very funny. A lot of times the spot celebrities are just there, almost like placeholders. But here they had something really interesting to do.
Okay, next one that you thought was funny was Uber Eats. This is my favorite one.
Yeah. I loved it. It was such a simple premise. Basically, to remember us, just forget one thing. So with that, you know, ensued a lot of comedy. And I love the fact that Jennifer Aniston forgot her, star Ross, her husband from the show. She'd forgotten him because that's the thing she forgot to remember.
Right.
So, it was very, very funny, very well done. Simple idea, executed well.
Yeah. Something that we're all guilty of was the couch potato one. Was very clever for Pluto.
I thought that was the best visual gag. And again, if you see the extended version, it's so funny because people get into their feels as they're watching television. I thought it was, again, great marketing idea because, television's so good you don't want to get out of the couch.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I missed this one.
They had even a little bitty cat potato. It was the funniest thing. I watched it this morning.
It could have been very bad, very weird, but I thought they pulled it off well.
Yes.
Okay, and the last one we want to talk about is the Dunkin commercial.
That was probably, if you go online, that was probably everybody's favorite. But you really had to know that was a sequel from last year. If you remember last year, J-Lo ended up at the Dunkin drive-thru and saw Ben serving coffee. So he wants to come to her workplace and he wants to impress her with his music. That was the best Tom Brady commercial ever. And Matt Damon just had the best lines. How do you like those donuts? It was just so well done, so well acted.
And you think that this year is the best Super Bowl year commercial-wise in a while?
In a while, yeah. I think the last couple of years have been a little meh. Yeah. But I thought there was a really good collection of spots. Very funny. Again, simple spots, very well done.
Okay. Also had some very deep ones in there as well.
Yeah, they did. A lot of, again, most Super Bowl spots are all about fun. Rarely they're about selling. They're all about fun.
Yeah.
If they're not about fun, they're about advocating for some social cause, and they're advertisers that did that very well, I thought.
Well, don't go anywhere. We're going to talk about more commercials coming up in our next hour of Virginia Today, because you still have some good ones we want to break down.
Great.
Super Bowl commercials, always a big talker.
Yes.
This year, 30 seconds was $7 million. Randy Belcher is here from Access U to break down what we saw last night. So last hour, we talked about the funny ones.
Yeah.
This one, we're talking about some other ones that stood out for other reasons.
Yeah, the Super Bowl is the one time of the year that people actually welcome commercials. They want to see them. And so it was a pretty good crop of commercials. One of my favorites was the Christopher Walken commercial. Most people think he's weird, but the premise of that commercial was everyone was being very weird around him trying to imitate it. But as far as marketing goes, it was very effective because basically the whole idea was there's only one Christopher Walken, you can't imitate him, there's only one BMW. So again, they tied it together really nicely, I think.
It was definitely very humorous. But the one that actually made me kind of tear up a little bit, I was not expecting the ice skater one with Kia. And then the end, it was like, oh, wow.
Yeah, again, if you're not being funny, you're going to try to go for people's emotions. And Kia was very manipulative, but that's okay. That's advertising. So where the young skater brought her performance to her grandfather, Google also did a great great job of, they had a commercial about a visually impaired person and how their technology helped them. So again, there were a lot of good, Dove did a wonderful commercial about keeping young women inspired in sports. So there were a lot of really good emotional spots last night.
Okay, another one you want to talk about is Squarespace.
Well, again, that was an unusual collaboration because that's Aliens and Martin Scorsese. He directed the commercial, and what was so interesting about it is people are always thinking, oh, I saw a UFO, I saw an alien, but the premise of this commercial was exactly the opposite. The aliens couldn't get anyone to notice them until they got a website from Squarespace. So it was a really interesting sort of idea, and he appeared in the spot as well. It was called Hello Down There.
Well, and there were some of the commercials that a lot of people had high expectations for that kind of sort of had a flat line, like the Budweiser one.
It may be controversial. How can you hate the Clydesdales? But they've just set such a high bar that I thought this was not as emotional. I think they should have spent more time with the horses and the dog. Another one that I thought was a total miss was the Homes.com commercial. It was just too much going on. Dan Levy was in it. You just could not keep up, and they ran 3 of them. And speaking of 3 of them, Temu ran the same commercial 3 times.
Is that effective?
It probably is, because again, they had a very unique selling proposition. So they wanted to get that across. So if you didn't get the first time, they gave it to you the second and the third. So I'm sure their sales are doing really well today.
So I was going to say 3 times. Is that $7 million a pop, or is
that?
21 million bucks.
That's a lot.
But again, they can afford to do that. So for a lot of advertisers, it's a good investment.
Randy, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.